clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Now, one of the more, let's say, out there approaches that sometimes I do in hypnosis is something called past life regression. Now, past life regression is based on a cultural belief system that many cultures have, that actually we don't simply live one life. That when one life finishes, sooner or later we then have another life and another life. But equally, whatever life we're in at the moment means that we have had a whole series of previous lives or lives. And in this session, I was working with a lady that was open-minded to this kind of idea of past life regression, where she could visit a previous life and the change that we would make in that past life would actually prove beneficial to her in her current life. Now, this is going to be really useful for anyone that simply wants to explore what past life regression is all about. But equally, if there is something not quite right in your life, and you don't know what it is, going back to a previous life and making a change there can actually have a dramatic impact on just improving the quality of someone's life. And here's the interesting thing. Even if they don't believe in past life regression, this is still effective. Now, I personally don't believe in past lives, but I do believe in the power of past life regression with hypnosis. And as a hypnotist, I use whatever tools are effective and work. And the theory as to why past life regression works, even in those people that don't necessarily believe in it, is because sometimes the subconscious mind is unwilling to accept perhaps a traumatic event that's happened or something undesirable. It can't accept it in the current life, but is willing to accept that it might have happened in a previous life. And if we resolve a trauma or an issue in a past life, then actually the symptoms actually go away in the present life. So it's a really powerful session. Great if you're interested in past life regression, or if you just want to, go on this kind of guided meditation. And if you don't like thinking of it as a past life, just consider it as an imagination exercise where you get to kind of allow your imagination to imagine what a previous life could have been like. That's also a good way of thinking about it. So relax and enjoy. And if you have any interesting experiences from this session, just put a note in the comments because I'd love to see that. All right, take care. Take a nice deep breath in. And on the out breath, just close your eyes and start to relax. And as you breathe in, I want you to imagine that you're breathing in just a feeling of calm and relaxation. Breathing in that relaxation. And as you breathe out, just imagining you're releasing any and all tension that is no longer needed. That's right. I want you to, as you imagine breathing in that feeling of relaxation, just notice where in your body there might be any residual tension. And the thing with residual tension is we become used to it, so we don't even know it's there sometimes. So I want you to imagine you're scanning your whole body from your head all the way down to your toes, just to notice where there may be tension that is no longer needed right now. Because there are things that require tension. We require tension to talk, we require tension to stand, we require tension in many different parts of movement and living. But right now, as you sit there on that chair, breathing in a sense of calmness, as you scan your body, you just realize that there isn't that need for tension right now. And perhaps it might be tension in and around the eyebrows and eyelids. As you scan that particular area, if there isn't a need for tension, just allow your body to let that tension go now. And perhaps it's the jaw. For many people, they hold on to tension in and around the jaw. And if there's no need for that tension, just imagine that your entire jaw is now shifting to something that, metaphorically speaking, can be more like a hammock between two palm trees, just resting there. And as you loosen the muscles in your jaw, notice that expands to other areas of your face, your cheeks. Some people even have tension around the nostrils, the lips. The more you become aware, the more you're able to just let go of that tension now. The place where most people store tension tends to be around the neck and around the shoulders. Become aware of it and notice it's always the out breath that enables you to just release that tension. That's right. And as you release the tension, you find it's easier to breathe. And the deeper you breathe, the more of that calm feeling you're breathing in. And you're creating a loop where the more relaxed you feel, the easier you breathe. And the easier you breathe, the more relaxed you feel. And isn't it strange how the opposite takes place when people get very stressed very quickly? They feel tension, so they breathe shallower. They feel more tense, so they become more tense. And this is all happening in reverse right now. As you release the tension, breathing deeper, releasing yet more tension, going deeper and deeper and deeper relaxed. That's right. Now pay attention to any tension around the arms, the fingers. You'd be surprised, tension can exist in a finger. It's in a particular position and it just doesn't need to be. So just allow that relaxation to spread to the very tips of your fingers, releasing any and all of that tension right now. You need tension if you're using a mobile phone or perhaps even writing a letter, but right now in this moment, you don't need that tension. Allow the feeling of any tension, perhaps in the forearms, perhaps around the biceps or any other part, just allow it to completely relax. As you breathe in, just imagine that relaxation also takes place inside. Imagine your lungs relaxing, your vocal cords relaxing. Imagine your heart relaxing. And the more relaxed you feel, the easier it is to get a sense of drowsiness. And it's not that the drowsiness is required. It's just that this feeling of relaxation really helps. It helps to activate certain brain waves
Because the brainwaves differ depending on how active you could be. When you're daydreaming, your brainwaves are different to when you're highly concentrated and focused. And when you're in a deep sleep, your brainwaves, again, have changed from alpha to beta, maybe all the way to theta. That very long wave, the kind of brainwaves that mean you can imagine things vividly. And you've had dreams that felt so real when you were in that dream, that if someone within the dream had have asked you, "Are you dreaming?" you would definitely have said that you're not dreaming in that moment because it felt so real. And that's the realness that can be created inside our own minds. Our own minds can create such vivid imagination that it feels real, that while you're in it, you don't even know that it's just an imagination. And I want you to get a sense of the ability to learn things through dreams. Some people say that dreams are necessary. They're necessary to just process all that overwhelming information we experience when we're awake. Some people perceive dreams to be an element of learning. At least a few times in your life, you've taken up something new, a new skill, a new hobby, and then when you've slept that night, you've dreamt of that very same thing. And it's almost like your dreams are doing the learning for you. There's the power of your imagination, the power of your unconscious mind. And as you breathe in and breathe out and release that tension, all the way down now into your gut, releasing that tension, all the way down into your legs, releasing that tension. And I want you to imagine that you're in a grand library. I want you to imagine that this library is normally busy, bustling, full of people. But for some reason, you're in this incredible library and it's completely empty, just you. And it's a big library. And there are sofas and there are chairs and there are, of course, rows and rows of bookshelves. Perhaps there is art on the wall, maybe a grand ceiling, but you get a sense that you're in one of the world's most impressive libraries. And if you can make a picture of what it would be like to be in a library like that, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to find somewhere in this library is going to be a very comfortable, maybe traditional looking sofa, or maybe a very comfortable, very soft chair. And I want you to look around this library until you can see something that just looks like it would be perfect to just take some time to dream. Once you've found a sofa or a chair or something in the library that looks like that, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And all I want you to do is to imagine getting on that sofa, that chair, that piece of furniture, whatever it might be, and making yourself comfortable. Still breathing in that feeling of calmness, releasing any and all tension. But I want you to get a sense that you feel so relaxed here that you can imagine being in a quiet, empty library on a comfortable chair or sofa, making yourself comfortable so much so that you can imagine being there with your eyes closed, just imagining vividly what it would be like to also be in that library. In fact, you're starting to relax so much that I'm going to count down from 5 to 1 and you will imagine falling asleep on that piece of furniture. Therefore, your physical body will be asleep and your imagination will be able to explore the library at your leisure. And let's do that now. 5, just feeling a sense of relaxation. 4, feeling that internal yawn that we've all had every now and then. 3, just feeling deeper and deeper relaxed. And 2, getting more and more comfortable. And 1, just imagine falling asleep on that piece of furniture now. That's it, falling asleep. And I want you to imagine that you're now dreaming. But strangely, you're dreaming that you're in the very same library that you've just fallen asleep on. Now, this dreamlike state means you don't even need to be in a physical body. You can just imagine floating to any and all parts. And I want you to imagine that there is a bookshelf that seems to stand out for you. And I want you to notice that at the end of a big long line of books, there is a book and it has your name there on the spine of the book, so you can see it. And as you pick it up, you can see that it is in fact a book about your life. And it starts at the beginning when you were a child, and as you go through, each chapter represents a different part of your life. But then as you put the book back, you can see that there are many other books before that. And the further back you go, the older the book looks. And I want you to accept the idea that each of these books is a previous life. That you aren't born just once. That you are born and you die. But then something about the essence of what makes you you simply returns again in a different life. That after the book that you're currently in closes, whether it's a few years, decades, or hundreds of years, there will be another book based around your new life. But for now, let's look at those older books. I want you to use the power of your intuition to know that one of these books had an event, perhaps a very traumatic event, that caused so much trauma that had the ability to affect all the lives that followed from that point in time. And one of the books on that long bookshelf will just seem to stand out, become more aware of it. And perhaps that's the book where something happened in that life. Something that if we were to resolve that thing, it would not just help your current life, but it would help all the following lives that may take place. And if there is a book on the bookshelf that seems to be attracting its attention to you, drawing you to it, just let me know with a small head nod. That's right, and I want you to grab that book, and rather than read it there on the shelf, I want you to, again, find a comfortable chair where you can flick through the pages of that book. Not just words, but pictures. And I want you to start at the beginning and get an overall sense that this tells the story. The first few pages, perhaps where you were born, who your parents were, maybe where you live. And as you flick through the pages, time passes. But before we get to maybe a significant event in this particular life, what I want you to do is to kind of explore what it would be like to visit that life. And I want you to flick the pages until you can see a positive memory from your childhood in this life. And maybe there's a picture in the book, or maybe it's just the name of a chapter to give you a clue, but I want you to turn to a page where there was a very positive memory from childhood, a wonderful memory. And once the book is on that page, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to know that this is just a dream within a dream, and that your imagination can actually take a journey into that particular moment, that wonderful childhood memory of that previous life. I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, and I want you to imagine that to begin with, you're just seeing that version of you as a child, almost like you're a stranger watching that child have that happy memory. And let's return to that memory now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I want you to imagine that you're there watching that version of you from an entirely different life, enjoying that happy memory. And if you can see that version of you, just let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And I want you to climb into that body. Feel what it feels like to be in that body at that age, at that time. And I want you to look around. You're aware that you're visiting, but equally you can feel any and all emotions that you felt back then. Maybe you felt joy, happiness, connection. And I want you to look around and see where you were. And perhaps you were outside. Perhaps you were indoors. Perhaps there were other people, or maybe animals. And maybe you were playing, or maybe you were doing something. Maybe you were celebrating something. And I want you to get an overall sense of just how good it feels to be in that body at that time. I want you to get an overall sense, an awareness, if you like, of where you are in the world, what you were doing, maybe who your parents are, where you were living. Maybe you were in a city, maybe you were in countryside, maybe you were in a hot country or a cold country. Just get an overall sense of your surroundings, become aware of who you were. But most importantly, connect to that feeling of happiness, joy, whatever made it a wonderful memory. Connect into that feeling and allow that feeling to spread across your entire body. And if you get an overall sense of feeling good, feeling amazing, capture it and notice where it started from, where you felt it. And it may be that you didn't have wealth or money back in that previous time, but you were still able to feel good. And I want you to learn from that it's not about the material things, but more the moments. And at some point when someone else is flicking through the book of your life, it won't be the possessions that you owned. It will be the moments that make that life. Get an overall sense of connecting to how easy it was to feel that good. And as you do so, and you get a sense of enjoying being that age at that time, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to imagine that you're now back in that chair reading that book. That it almost felt like just daydreaming what it would be like to be that child enjoying that happy memory. And I want you to again flick through the pages to another significant moment in this life. Another really good memory, but this time I want you to see a moment where you felt incredible amounts of gratitude. Perhaps something happened in that life where someone did something for you, or you just noticed something. And I want you to flick to that page where something happened that made that version of you feel grateful. And when you found that page and that memory, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to imagine now, again, going into the pages of the book and visiting that world, seeing that version of you with all that gratitude, and simply observing what was happening at that time to make you so grateful. And when you're convinced that the version that you're seeing is full of gratitude, I want you to imagine inhabiting that version of you at whatever age you were at that time, being filled with gratitude, and climb inside that body. And I want you to get an overall sense of just feeling completely and totally grateful for whatever was happening at that moment, and become aware of what was that thing that made you so grateful. And it may have something to do with food, or recognition, or shelter, or warmth. Or maybe someone went out of their way to do something for you, perhaps risking their own health or life to do something for you. But I want you to get an overall sense of what it feels like to be filled with gratitude. Allow that feeling of gratitude to vibrate, resonate to every cell in your body. Get an overall sense that while you're in this feeling of gratitude, other emotions such as anxiety, fear, anger, hate doesn't exist. That when you're filled with that feeling of gratitude, that's the only thing you feel. A connection, a feeling, an overwhelming feeling of being at peace and feeling wonderful. And I want you to just point to where that feeling of gratitude exists within you. It may be vibrating across your whole body, but it feels more intense in a particular location. I just want you to point to that particular location. That's it. And I want you to use a memory tool now. I want you to think of that location of gratitude. And I want you to think of a symbol, a shape perhaps, to put in that very location. And as you place it there, I want you to notice if that shape moves or vibrates or rotates. And whatever it's doing, make it do it a bit faster. Notice if there's a color attached to that shape, and if there is, make that color a bit brighter. So bright perhaps it may even start to glow. And as it does, I want you to feel like you're amplifying that feeling of gratitude. I also want you to think of a word or a sound that seems to just connect and link to that shape in that color, in that movement. And know that whenever you think of this shape in that location and you breathe how you're breathing now, noticing what there is to be grateful for, this feeling returns to you. And now it's time to leave this particular moment in this life. Return back to flicking through the pages of the book and notice how easy it is to just inhabit that previous life and experience it as if it's experiencing to you, and you're experiencing it as if it's happening in the present tense. But now as you flick through the pages, I want you to flick later in the book to something significant, perhaps traumatic, something that happened that forever changed the direction of your life. I want you to flick to that page, and when you've arrived at that page, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And again, I want you to imagine climbing into that book, visiting that moment in time. But this time, you will remain objective. You will see yourself as if you're someone else. Whatever that traumatic thing is, I want you to simply be a witness to it. I want you to observe what happens, what led up to it, what the event was, and then what the repercussions were of that particular event. Many times a traumatic thing happens, and there is a need for vengeance, anger, retribution, or sometimes victimhood. Sometimes in history, when devastating things happened, all the power was with people and there was no justice back then. But I want you to get an overall sense that you're witnessing something traumatic, and that trauma impacted the very person that you're witnessing it happening to, which may even be yourself. And if that's the case, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. Now, the reason trauma remains a trauma rather than a lesson is simply because a negative emotion is still attached to that event. Sometimes people can feel anger years and years after an event happens. Every cell in the human body is rapidly changing. After 7 years, there is not a single cell in your body that still exists, and yet people can still feel emotions attached to memories beyond 7 years. And therefore, the emotion is attached to a thought, no longer a real event. And I want you to acknowledge what emotion must be felt by the individual, and perhaps, if it feels safe to do so, I want you to temporarily inhabit the version of you back then, just to get a sense of what that emotion was. And if it becomes too extreme or too intense, then jump back out to the stranger watching. But just long enough to get a sense of what was that emotion being experienced at that time. And once you've got a sense of what that emotion was, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. And now shift perspective all the way back to this stranger that's just witnessing what's happening. And it may be that that emotion was completely valid, justified, natural for whatever was happening at that moment in time. But I also want you to appreciate that sometimes giving something a new meaning, a different perspective, can change the emotion. And it might be that this moment took place a long time ago in history, perhaps hundreds and hundreds of years ago, in which case the new meaning is that this is in the past. This is not happening in the moment. Or perhaps there was something good to have come from something so bad and traumatic. And I want you to think of what that good thing might be. Maybe there's a lesson that can be learned from that traumatic, emotional event. And you'll know when you attribute a new meaning or a new lesson because the emotion changes. Where before there might be an emotion such as rage, vengeance, somehow that can change to forgiveness, peace, perspective. Many people have said that holding on to a negative emotion when something bad happened is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. I want you to get an overall sense that whatever happened, and whatever lessons can be learned have been learned, and whatever new positive meaning can be attributed to that event that is positive or useful somehow. Sometimes useful is more important than positive, even if it's useful with your different perspective that you have. Maybe you can learn something from that and it changes how you think about your own future, your own situation, how you treat other people. But if your unconscious mind can find something beneficial, useful, or insightful from this trauma that you've witnessed, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And notice that with the lesson, or the insight, or the new meaning, suddenly the emotion changes. where before there was trauma, now there is something of value. And that is often the case. The very best that have ever lived have been able to find some kind of treasure in the most brutal of traumas. And if you found something of value in what's happened, then likewise you have done that also. If there is something of value that you have taken from this traumatic moment in this life, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. I want you to imagine leaving this place, but leave with the overall sense of this new essence, insight, lesson, or meaning. And as you come back out and you're flicking through that book, I want you to just notice that the pages that follow are now different because of the new meaning that you gave that particular moment. And that's how it is with time. And I want you to think about time as constantly creating alternative futures. In anyone's life, they can think of many significant moments, decisions that forever change the trajectory of their life. And likewise, if you're able to find something positive in something that was previously a negative, traumatic memory, then you've changed not only your own future, but the future of all the lives that followed this life. And if your unconscious mind accepts that suggestion to be true, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to return this book to the bookshelf, feeling that sense of gratitude still exists within you, that positive memory, that feeling that you had from that positive memory still exists within you, and you can recall it whenever you need. But as you put the book back on the bookshelf, just notice that all the books that follow on from that book, all the way up to the current one that represents your life, are all subtly updating their pages. Suddenly that trauma that could have had echoes in many, many different lives are still having echoes, but echoes that are positive and useful and empowering. Now what I want you to do is I want you to pick up the book that represents your life. Grab a seat on that comfortable chair, flick through the book, and just see those memories from your childhood that were wonderful. Even if there was just one in particular, I want you to flick through, and again I want you to go back and see yourself as a child experiencing that wonderful memory. When you're convinced that you're seeing yourself as a child having that wonderful memory, I want you to imagine climbing into your own body, however old you were, get a sense of that. Feel what you can do at that age. Your imagination, the possibilities are endless. Get an overall sense of whatever it was that made you feel good. Tap into that feeling of feeling good right now. If you were smiling back then you have a tendency, a temptation to smile right now. But allow yourself to enjoy feeling that way. And remember that as a child, there was no career success. It wasn't based on status. This good feeling came from something very pure. Something that you can replicate whenever you want in a new and interesting way. When you tap into that good feeling of just feeling good and feeling wonderful, it's time to leave this memory. Go back to flicking through the pages of your life. And again, flick through to a page, a moment in your life where you've been at your most grateful. the single time in your life that you've been more grateful than any other moment. As you flick through the pages, I want you to see that moment, maybe as a picture, maybe as a paragraph. And I want you to go back to that time again, seeing yourself as maybe a fly on the wall, a hidden camera, just witnessing you feeling at your most grateful. Again, I want you to imagine inhabiting that version of you, that body that was full of gratitude. Your whole body's full of gratitude. Notice what it was that made you feel so grateful. Notice where that main place of gratitude feels like it's coming from. And again, I just want you to point to that place. That's it. And just connect to that feeling of gratitude. And perhaps when you think of a symbol or shape, maybe it's very similar to maybe a different time in a different life that you also felt that gratitude. Again, I want you to make that shape bigger, brighter. Make it move in whatever direction it was moving faster. Increase that feeling of gratitude. And just know that no other negative emotion exists when you have this level of gratitude. That this is a way that whatever happens in the future enables you to recenter, refocus, and connect with what makes you feel this way. I want you to also, as you jump out of that memory and flick through the pages, I want you to flick to a page where there was a genuine trauma, the most traumatic event that's happened in your life so far. When you can flick to that page and know exactly when that was, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And I want you to imagine, again, going back to that moment, witnessing what happened. A stranger in the distance, a fly on the wall, a hidden camera. But I want you to see what's happening. That traumatic event. I want you to know that that trauma was real. That it was justified feeling that way at that time. But I also want you to get a sense that perhaps at some level something positive came from that trauma. Maybe at some level that trauma made you into the person that you are today. Maybe at some level that trauma fueled your purpose, fueled who you are and why you do what you do. Maybe at some level, maybe it defined a characteristic, a quality that you admire in yourself now that may not have existed without that moment. And as you look at yourself, I want you to jump into that moment, that version of you that experienced that trauma, just enough to feel the emotion, know that it was justified, know that it was real, jump out, see yourself as someone else, and then give it that new meaning, that new perspective, something of value that undoubtedly came from that moment, the treasure somewhere buried in that trauma. When you're 100% certain you know that something valuable came from that trauma, the feeling changes. What if that event was actually a gift in some way? When you're 100% certain that there was something valuable there, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And all I want you to do is get an overall sense that with that new meaning, with that new perspective, you're able to Take power from a time where perhaps you felt powerless. I want you to capture that feeling of owning what happened, changing the meaning, changing the lesson from it to make it work for you rather than against you. And when you've done that, I want you to imagine flicking back through those pages of your life, but this time I want you to get a glimpse of the pages that haven't been written yet, but will be written. I want you to think about all the things that you want in your future, and I want you to see them written down in that book. As you flick through the pages, I want you to see wonderful moments in the future, accomplishments, connections, significant milestones, everything that you want in your life. I want you to see it in those pages, in the pages beyond what has currently been written. I want you to imagine that they have been written, and they're telling you and showing you that all those wonderful things are possible for you. And when you get an overall sense that your future is compelling by your own design, sometimes there'll be moments of accidents, spontaneity, synchronicity that just mean wonderful things happen, but sometimes you will make those things happen. And as you flick through the book, get an overall sense of the positive future that you are yet to enjoy. Then I want you to put the book back on the shelf and get an overall sense of being grateful for your past, grateful for your present, and grateful for your future. I want you to go back to that place in the library where you can see yourself fast asleep, perhaps on a sofa, perhaps on a chair. And I want you to imagine climbing into that version of you that's having that dream. And just notice that good feeling and that feeling of gratitude is still there in that location, that you feel good and wonderful. And I want you to imagine that even that is still a dream. And I want you to imagine that you're back right in your own chair right now, in the present time. And very soon I'm going to count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken claiming a new insight into perhaps a purpose or meaning for your life, or perhaps a goal or a destiny for your future. But you will awaken knowing that you can activate these good memories and this feeling of gratitude whenever you desire. And you also know that you can feel good for absolutely no reason whatsoever. You will awaken in the moment, in this time, with a sense of connection to your past, your present, and your future, feeling incredibly optimistic for what the future will bring. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.